So he drops, under pressure, stays cool, calm, collected, about to get smoked. It just lofted a little bit too high and goes over the head for an interception.
Yesterday, Shedeur Sanders made his preseason debut for the Cleveland Browns against the Bears. And I need you to see this with your own eyes before anybody tells you what to think about it. Because there's a moment on tape where he's got a blitzer coming full speed, no fear in his eyes, and he still throws a strike 35 yards down the field. There's also a moment where the same kind of pressure gets him and the ball sails high for a pick. Both things happened in the same game. Let's break down exactly what that means. So let's start at the very beginning, because this was literally his first pass as a Cleveland Brown in a real game. 21 personnel, 2 backs in the backfield, 1 tight end in the route concept. They motion pre-snap, they play fake, and Shedeur drops back. Here's what matters. His back foot hits the ground, he hitches up in the pocket, and he's already seeing something the defense doesn't want him to see. The receiver has great separation, but the receiver isn't looking back at him yet. That's the tell. If Shedeur waits for the guy to turn his head, he loses the window. Instead, he throws with anticipation. He leads him just enough that the defensive back can't jump the route and turn it into a pick, but the receiver still has room to work after the catch. 24 yards, first play of his Browns career. Now, I want to be clear about why this matters more than the yardage. Anticipation throws are the hardest thing to teach a quarterback. You can coach footwork. You can coach progressions. What you can't really coach is trusting what you see before it's fully there. Shedeur saw man coverage the second he watched that defensive back rotate and never look back at the quarterback. That's pre-snap and post-snap processing working together in real time on his very first snap in his first real NFL action. People are going to tell you preseason doesn't matter. And look, in a lot of ways they're right. The results don't count toward anything. But the traits are real. The traits show up whether it's preseason or the Super Bowl. And what we saw on play 1 was a guy who reads coverage, trusts his eyes, and pulls the trigger with confidence instead of hesitation. That's the version of Shedeur Sanders that got him drafted in the first place. That's the version people in Cleveland have been waiting to see live. And it happened before most fans even finished getting their popcorn. But I'm not going to sit here and tell you the whole tape was perfect. It wasn't. There's a play just a few snaps later where I think he left some meat on the bone, and we need to talk about it honestly, because that's the job here.
Under center, in this I formation, we're going to get the pre-snap motion, and as we play fake, boom, we got to drop, back foot's going to hit the ground, we're going to hitch up in the pocket, we're going to see that we've got great separation here, plus the guy's not looking at Shedeur Sanders, which means he doesn't know if the football's coming or not. He's not looking, right? So we're going to throw this with anticipation, and we're going to lead him back just a little bit, just enough for the DB not to be able to jump this thing for the interception, gives us plenty of space, turn up the field, make the guy miss, and pick up 24 yards in that play. This is a great job by Shedeur.
Stop right there for a second, because the very next play is the exact opposite lesson. This next one's interesting because I don't think Shedeur did anything technically wrong here in terms of arm talent or accuracy. I think this is about progression discipline, and it's worth slowing down on. The Bears send a nickel blitz off the edge. That's their disguise. That's their pressure look. And because of that blitz, there's a slant that opens up wide open over the middle of the field. If Shedeur scans left to right, 1, 2, 3, he sees it. It's sitting there. But he doesn't scan it that way. He locks onto a dig route over the middle from the jump. He trusts his guy, Gage, to win the route. And to be fair to him, Gage does win it. The route is open. This isn't a bad decision in a vacuum. But the ball gets deflected right at the line of scrimmage before it even gets to Gage because there's a hand in the passing lane that a fuller scan might have avoided, or at least given him a better throwing lane to work around. I want to be fair here. This route was open. I don't hate the decision to throw it. But when you've got a guy that open on the other side of the field because of the blitz, sometimes the disciplined rep is the one where you take what the defense is begging you to take, not just the one you drew up in the game plan. This is the difference between a talented young quarterback and a finished product. The talent lets you stare down your first read and still complete a lot of throws because your arm and your guys can bail you out. The discipline is what turns that into consistent production over 16, 17 games a year, because defenses start taking away what you like to throw and daring you to go through the whole progression. Shedeur is going to want this one back, not because it was a disaster. It wasn't. It's a deflected pass, not a turnover. But this is exactly the kind of rep that gets marked up in the film room this week. Coaches are going to rewind this, show him the numbers 1 and 2, and say, hey, this route was sitting there the whole time. And look, this is normal. This happens to rookies. It happens to veterans. It happens in year 12 of a career sometimes. The question isn't whether it happened. The question is whether he corrects it. And based on what happens just a couple drives later, I think the early signs are actually pretty encouraging.
I don't want to say properly, but it seems like he just stared down one target, which is going to be this dig route over the middle of the field. Just had a lot of faith in his guy to win that route, when in reality, they send this nickel blitz here off the edge, and we have like this wide open slant over the middle of the field that if we just turned and scanned, we're going to see him wide open, right? So take a look at this play. We're going to get that pre-snap motion. We're going to drop back, and we're going to look left to right. So we're looking left. We're not really looking at the tight end. He's covered up. But again, once he stares down, once he sees, like, I want this dig route over the middle of the field because these safeties are backing up so much, like, we have this wide open. If we just scanned and looked and fired, we have a nice little chunk piece there. We got to be able to find that. But he stares down Gage, who, you know, respectfully wins his route. So, yes, it probably would have been a nice completion there to Gage, but ball gets deflected at line of scrimmage. I thought it just might have been a little bit easier there to scan, right? 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and you see that wide open. Now, again.
So here's the real question. When the Bears decided to bring everybody, cover 0, no safety help anywhere, how does a rookie quarterback respond to that kind of heat? This is the play I keep coming back to, because this is the one that tells you something real about who Shedeur Sanders is under duress. Cover 0. That means the Bears are sending everybody. No deep safety, no help anywhere on the field. Every single receiver is on an island, and the free rusher is coming untouched. Defenses do this to rookie quarterbacks specifically because they want to see if he panics. They want to see if the pocket collapsing changes his eye discipline. Shedeur has multiple options here. There's a deep post, there's a shallow cross, and there's a route breaking to the sideline that he locks onto. Now here's why that decision makes sense even before the ball is snapped. The defensive back covering that route has his hips opened up toward the sideline. Shedeur's receiver is breaking to the middle of the field. That means Shedeur's guy has natural leverage. He can create separation just off of body positioning alone. So Shedeur drops back into a pocket that is completely collapsing around him. He's about to get hit, and everybody watching live can see it coming. But instead of speeding up his internal clock, instead of bailing early or throwing it away out of instinct, he stays cool, calm, and collected. He delivers a strike right where it needs to be, 35 yards down that sideline. I want you to think about what that actually requires mentally. You know you're about to take a hit. Your body wants to flinch, your feet want to bail, your eyes want to come off the target and find the rush. And instead, he stayed in the pocket, finished his throwing motion, and put the ball on the money. This is the trait that separates guys who survive in this league from guys who get exposed the moment a defense turns up the pressure. And it's not something you fake. You either have that clock in your head or you don't. Shedeur showed it here in his very first NFL action against a defense that was specifically designed to make him uncomfortable. I also want to point something out. This wasn't the only wide-open option on this play. There was another route open too, and honestly, he could have gone there if he wanted. But he took the shot he wanted to take from the jump, read the leverage correctly, and delivered it under duress. That's not luck. That's processing speed and poise stacked together on the same rep. Big-time pickup. Big-time answer to a big-time blitz.
He's going to want that one back. All right, right here we're going to get cover 0. The Bears understood that if they just sent everybody to the house, like, they knew they could probably get Shedeur Sanders to panic maybe a little bit. And right here we're going to get this deep post. I think we're going to get like a deep dig. I know we got a shallow cross here. Ultimately, he wants this route right here. The safety, I believe, maybe blitzes. We're about to find out. Yeah, he blitzes, so they're sending everybody. Cover 0. We also have this wide open, so Shedeur also could have hit this if he wanted to, but again, was eyes set on this right here. Why? Well, because this DB's hips are opened up to the sideline, and we're breaking to the middle of the field, which means we've got leverage to create separation. So he drops, under pressure, stays cool, calm, collected, about to get smoked, and is still able to deliver a great football right where it needs to be 35-yard pickup down that sideline. Great job from Shedeur.
And if that was the whole story, this would be an easy highlight reel. But stick with me, because the tape isn't done teaching us things. Now let's get to the play that's going to end up in every hot take video this week, because context matters here, and I want you to actually have it before you make up your mind. Deep post on one side, a deep crosser or dig over the middle, and the safeties are playing so far off that a route is flashing open in the middle of the field. Shedeur sees it. This is a good, correct read. He's finding the right guy in a soft coverage look, exactly like he's supposed to. But watch what's happening up front while he's making this read. His left guard gets bullied about 7 yards deep into the pocket, right into Shedeur's front side as he's in the middle of his throwing motion. This isn't a clean pocket where he has time to hitch up and set his feet. This is a guy getting driven backward into his quarterback's lap in real time. So he's throwing this ball with a body about to collide with him, no time to reset his base, having to layer this pass over the second level of the defense from an unclean platform. And it sails just a little too high. It goes over the receiver's head and gets picked off. I'm not going to pretend that's a good outcome. It's an interception, it goes in the box score as a turnover, and in a results business, that matters. But I also don't think it's fair to talk about this play without mentioning that his left guard got bullied backward like it was a bull rush drill. Tough throw to make with a clean pocket, nearly impossible to make with a guy about to land on you. And here's something else worth knowing. It was 3rd and 8. He needed to get to the sticks, and the running back option underneath was in soft coverage. So there's a real conversation to be had about whether that check down gets there anyway. We don't know for sure, but the primary read, the one he actually threw, was the correct read. The execution just didn't hold up because the protection broke down around him. This is the honest version of this play. Right read, wrong outcome, under duress that he didn't create. That's a very different story than Shedeur can't read a defense, which is what you're going to see in 100 thumbnails by tomorrow morning.
Left guard gets absolutely pummeled about 7 yards into the front side of Shedeur Sanders as he is throwing this football. I mean, look at this left guard. Just gets bullied. So as he is throwing this football here, right, didn't really have time to get a nice hitch up in the pocket. I mean, tough throw to make. Tough throw to make. You got a guy in your face, but does have to layer this over the second level of the defense here. Again, this is wide open. This is where we want the football to go. It's a good read. It just lofted a little bit too high and goes over the head for an interception. So
here's the reality check. 1 preseason game, 2 throwing environments, completely different results. Same quarterback. Let's put the whole debut side by side for a second. On the plays where Shedeur Sanders had a functioning pocket, he was outstanding. Anticipation throw on play 1 for 24 yards, a perfect over-the-shoulder placement on an out route for a first down, a 35-yard strike into a full blitz where he stayed composed and delivered anyway. On the plays where the protection broke down completely, the results got shakier. 1 near miss that got deflected because he stayed on his first read a beat too long, 1 interception that came off a collapsing pocket where the read itself was correct, but the platform wasn't there to finish it clean. That's not a guy who can't play. That's a guy whose flashes are legitimately encouraging and whose mistakes are mostly explainable, either by inexperience with progression discipline or by an offensive line that didn't hold up its end of the deal on a couple of snaps. Both of those things can improve. Reps fix the first one, continuity up front fixes the second one. If you watched this game looking only for reasons to doubt him, you found some. If you watched this game looking only for reasons to believe in him, you found plenty of those too. The honest version is somewhere in between, and honestly, the honest version still looks pretty good for a first career start. So where does that leave us? A rookie quarterback who threw with anticipation on his very first career pass, who stayed composed against a full blitz and delivered a 35-yard strike while getting ready to take a hit, and who also made a couple of mistakes that a young player getting reps is supposed to make along the way. I think the traits are real. I think the flashes are real. And I think the next few weeks of preseason are going to tell us a lot more about whether the mistakes shrink or whether they stick around. Here's my question for you. Based on this tape, do you think Shedeur Sanders deserves the starting job, or do you think the mistakes are enough to hold him back a little longer? Drop your answer below, smash like and subscribe.